All right, we are live. Hey, everybody, welcome on into this edition of War Chant TV. It's another happy hour edition of War Chant TV. I'm joined by the brain trust of the Ultimate Seminole Sports Source, warchant.com. We have owner and administrator Gene Williams, managing editor Ira Schofel, and look at the big guy, senior writer, lead writer Cory Clark, joining us via automobile, puttering his way up North I-75 in the lovely Peach State. Gentlemen, how is everybody? Cheers. I'm drinking water. I think Cory is as well, too.
I hope Cory is.
There you go. Cheers.
No beer. No beer right now.
No beer. All right. Very well. Very well.
I'm representing.
Again, folks, if you're not a member of the Ultimate Seminole Sports Source, sorry to jump you, Ira. You drinking Red Stripes? We see the Red Stripes are still flowing in the Schofel household.
New and different.
There we go. Do use the promo code WarChant30 if you're not already a member of warchant.com. That'll get you full access to all the great stuff we got going on over on the website. Right now, the top billing is the work that Gene and Ira did with the War Room, which we can't talk about it all because what's said on the tribal council stays on the tribal council. But the momentum continues to kind of percolate throughout college athletics, especially football, when it comes to getting guys back on campus. And it sounds like Florida State has some sort of idea, Gene, of what they want to get accomplished here in the next few weeks.
Yeah, everything's looking good, but we're still – I think we're going to wait ultimately what goes on at the government level with Governor DeSantis and, what he decides. And I think it'll kind of filter down to the various universities, including Florida State.
And folks, feel free to give us a call. It's a call-in edition, 850-792-5730. It should be there on my screen, I think. Ira, you've been writing columns for like the last 2 weeks that if there is a football season or if there isn't, they won't be able to say that the schools didn't try. The NCAA allowing June 1st to be a start date. We hear the SEC is doing June 8th. So it does sound like these schools are going to take a pretty measured approach, but they're ready to try to get this thing started.
Yeah, I think everybody's kind of all over the map about how they're going to do it. And there's meetings going on at the conference level between all the head coaches to discuss different plans. Just before we came on here, I was reading some comments from Ray Tanner at South Carolina describing what they're going to do. They're actually going to have like clusters of players and kind of break the team up into little mini groups that stick together so they don't have much cross-pollination and try to limit the possibility of contamination from if one player has it, maybe it only affects 4 players as opposed to the whole team. So they're all working all those things out. But, yeah, I expect Florida State will be working out again in the next week or two, probably 2 weeks.
Hey, we got a phone call.
Let's do it.
Welcome on into the warchant.com happy hour. Who we got on the phone?
What's up, Aslan and gentlemen? It's Gator Kirk.
Gator Kirk in the house. What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. It's nice and sunny in Virginia, so can't complain.
Indeed. What's on your mind, man? I'll turn it over to the gentleman if you got a question for him.
All right. It's funny to see Cory in his car. I hope he's not drinking and driving.
No,
It's always
right
funny
now.
to see Cory.
If there are reduced people in the stands this winter or this football season, how will that impact the football program financially? And of course, all the other sports since they ride the coattails of the football program.
Yeah, what do you think, Ira? Like the big money obviously is TV, but that's a substantial hit if you're losing millions of dollars in season ticket sales, right?
Yeah, and I don't even know if I would say the big money is TV. I don't think it's a huge disparity. Of the football team's revenue, like at FSU's football team, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they might bring in, $60-70 million in a year. The ACC contribution is about 30 million or so, I believe, usually in that ballpark. So the rest of the revenue is coming from ticket sales, donations, contributions, concessions, parking. It's a huge operation. So if you limit that, say that figure is $30 million or so, $30 to $40 million in terms of money they get for holding games, and you cut the attendance from season tickets from 30,000 to as high of 45,000. They've had 45,000 season tickets before, and you have 70,000 people in the stands. If you cut that to 15 or 20,000, that maybe that 30 or 40 million becomes 10 million or 15 million. So it's a huge deal. But the point Cory made about TV is right. Just getting the games on and getting that TV money to come through is a huge part of it. And then it's just kind of incremental. How much, basically whatever percentage of the stadium is full, that percentage of the revenue they could have gotten, they will have gotten. Now, the one thing I would say is like last year, the last 2 years, they haven't been anywhere close to capacity. They've been averaging, I don't know, maybe 60, 65,000 fans at the games. So, going to 20 or 25,000, unfortunately, isn't as big of a loss as it would have been from 80,000. So, but it's definitely a huge loss. And, it's going to be, I wouldn't say crippling, but if it went on long term, I think it would be crippling. What do you think, Gene?
Yeah, there's no doubt. But like you said, it's better, even if we end up, I know we've got one of our hot topics coming up. We're going to discuss, what it might look like if there, will there be fans in the stands, and what it might look like and what kind of impact could that have. But yeah, ultimately, one way or the other, I think we can all agree it's not going to be business as usual. You're not going to see the dope packed out this fall. So that they're going to take a hit financially. But even if it's completely empty, worst case scenario, but they have football, it's better than nothing. If it, let's say hypothetically, instead of 60 million, you're only bringing in 30 million. It's still better than it's $60 million loss. So you take the 30, maybe it's half of that. Maybe they lose 10, 15 million. I don't know off of this, but right now there's so many variables involved in this and how it might play out and how they're going to distribute the tickets and do everything else. So we're kind of guessing right now, but I think at the end of the day, there's going to be a financial hit. The degree could be a few million to tens of millions. At this point, we just don't know.
And the one last point on that whole topic is the problem with this is it's not like if you had a business where you sold some sort of machinery, like we sell this machinery,
like a coffee pot,
Say I sell coffee pots.
There you go.
If something happens and I can't sell coffee pots, at least I'm not spending money to build coffee pots. The problem with this situation is, if they don't play games, they still got to pay all these coaches' salaries. They still got to pay these students scholarships. They still have to house them. They still have to feed them. So they have to start getting some revenue in whatever kind they can, because these expenses aren't going away.
Well, isn't this where you can help a little bit too? If you cut out the Boise State game, cut out some of these travel things, the Syracuse games like that, at least maybe you can save a couple million cost cutting, getting rid of some of these long travel things. When you're bringing 100 people, over 100 people with all the support staff and everybody else, that's a huge expense. I don't know if you went through the numbers recently, but what will a trip to Boise, for instance? I mean, how much in travel costs is going to run FSU?
Oh, I mean, I think several $100,000, maybe up to $1 million. I'm not sure exactly, but they've spent, several $100,000. I mean, that's part of what the guarantee for games sometimes eats up a lot of that in the travel. One thing I've seen, Florida State hasn't announced anything yet, but some schools have talked about, I know one conference at least has talked about, I think maybe the MAC has talked about no longer traveling, no longer staying in hotels the night before home games, which, doesn't seem like a big deal, but that's something that every team in the country has been doing for years, is, putting the players, even when they're playing at FSU, the team goes and spends the night in a hotel the night before. And I don't know, is that $50,000, $60,000, whatever it is, it adds up.
All right, Kirk. Here we go. All right, Kirk. Appreciate
all
the
right,
call.
Thank you, Kirk.
I appreciate you all, and you all have a great holiday weekend, and thank you to all that have served.
Indeed.
Well
said.
Go Noles.
Thanks, Kirk. Hey, do you guys know, is it illegal to drive with headphones in?
I don't think so.
I mean,
Georgia folks are crazy.
It used to be. I know it used to be, but I don't know if it still is anymore because all the hands-free stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. In Georgia, you've got the hands-free thing, so you've got to be able to have earphones or earbuds, right? Something.
Well, I think they want you to have Bluetooth, so it's coming in on your car, maybe. I don't know, but that's why if you keep seeing me pull this one out of the right ear, it's because I'm passing a cop in the middle lane, so I don't want him to see. I'm playing with fire.
Maybe you're allowed to have one. Maybe you're allowed to have one butt in, as long as you can hear with your other ear.
As long as I can hear somebody's horn. So when I pass him, because it's Atlanta traffic, this is something I've really missed. I keep driving by him, and then he drives by me because we're just going back and forth playing that game in the lanes. And so when I get next to him, you'll see me pull this out again.
I think it would be worth it, Gene, if he got the ticket. You'd pay for it, right? Just for the video of.
Oh, that Cory. Would be, yeah. It would go viral. Just having Cory. Can you, and make sure Aslan, if you get that, make him the big screen, and Cory, you got to shift it over to the cop and get the whole.
Oh, well, I'd be like, hey, you're live on YouTube, officer.
Oh, well.
Yeah, do we know how long Florida State's been staying in Thomasville or outside of Tallahassee for home games? I know, Ira, you and Cory sat down with Gary Jordan, who made that 1985 documentary, and they were doing it all the way back then. Hold the thought. We got a phone call. And they're just going to keep calling. It's a beautiful thing. Welcome on in to the WarChant.com happy hour. Happy Friday. Who's this?
Jeremy, how you doing, Aslan?
Jeremy. There he is, man. I'm doing well. How about yourself, man?
Hanging in there, thanks.
I hear that. What's on your mind, man?
Question for the guys. I'm sure everybody watched The Last Dance. Remember the scene with Dennis Rodman when the team was trying to get him away from the media, and 20 people rushed him? Have any of you been in a situation like that where a player or coach were trying to get away from the media and you just saw a pack of animals like that chase the player or coach?
That's a good one. That was a funny scene. I've never seen anything quite like that.
That was crazy too. I was telling Stephanie, like, what are you even rushing? You're going to fall running upstairs to get Dennis Rodman walking out of a building. It's not like he's going to be like, oh, hey guys, y'all want to talk? So it was just crazy that they're running that fast to get him getting on a bus. But I do have a story kind of like that with Randy Spetman. The day that Bowden, the day that Bowden resigned. Come on, Cory, keep a hand on the wheel. A day that Bowden resigned. God, this cop. So they made Dakota Watson and Christian Ponder available. Spetman was there but wouldn't talk, and so when it was over, he started walking back to the elevator to go back up to the fourth floor at the Moore Center. And I remember Andrew. He was basically running. He was jogging very fast towards the elevator. It was, I think, Andy Staples, Andrew Carter, and I was at the Democrat at the time, walking with him. And Andrew Carter, who was with the Sentinel at the time, was like, do you have anything to say? What do you want to say? Anything? And he wouldn't even say a peep. He wouldn't even say, like, guys, no, I'm not really at liberty to say. It's already in the release. I'm not going to say anything publicly. He literally would not even acknowledge that he was being asked questions. And then he got in the elevator and went upstairs.
That was the only thing that I laughed about during that whole thing, because like I was there also, and it's just like, what's the point? He's not going to talk. He would never talk. During the entire process, he never talks. So it was like, why are we like stalking this guy down the hallway? But there was another funny one with I actually had one in college that was pretty funny. When I was covering the Florida Georgia game back in early 90s, and Georgia had a pretty good running back. It was
Garrison Hurst.
Garrison Hurst, and Garrison Hurst was, everybody was pimping him for the Heisman, and Florida just totally shut him down. Georgia's offensive line just did nothing. And after the game, we waited by the lot. It was me, Greg Doyle, and a couple other reporters waited outside of the visiting locker room. That's how they did interviews back then. You'd wait outside the locker room for them to come out. Garrison Hurst had dipped out through like a back exit, so we couldn't talk to him. So when we finally clued in, when everybody else had left, we went and tried to find the buses where the team had got on the buses. And so because I was writing, I think I was covering for the Times Union or somebody. So we go around to where the buses are, and we find a lady wearing a Hurst jersey, and it's his mom. And so we asked her, do you know if Garrison's already in the bus? And she said, yeah. Why? Do you guys want to talk to him? We said, yeah, we'd like to talk to him about his game. And he had just had an awful game. I don't know, he might have had 20 yards or something, just nothing. And she made him get off the bus and come talk to us.
Wow.
She said,
wow.
She goes, you'll talk to these boys when you do good. You're going to talk to them when you do bad. And she made him come off the bus and talk to us. That was pretty awesome.
I guess there's a lot of scrums I remember with the media. I guess one that stands out to me, just because we all got a giggle out of it, was the whatever year Dillard's was. I guess that was 1999. The whole Dillard's Gate thing, and all the media came down in hordes. And Bobby talked and Peter Warrick talked, and I guess he was coming out to practice later that day. They had a press conference during the day, and all the media are all standing around, and then Pete comes out of like a side door or something to practice, and then all the media is chucking over there. And there's a photographer, I think he might have been a Democrat photographer at the time, I don't want to throw out the name, had all his equipment and just nosedived on the ground as everybody just trampled over him, equipment going everywhere. And we shouldn't have laughed at it. He probably had a couple $1,000s worth of damage to his equipment, but he was kind of banging into people and stuff. So anyway, that's the one I remember, but it is crazy. I've been in the middle of those. And I know, Aslan, when you do your press conferences, a lot of times, man, you're getting boxed out. That thing, and that's something that's got to change too with the media, man. We cannot be on top of each other for those interviews anymore.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait for us to have social distancing during press conferences and media availability things. It's gonna be a great thing. But yeah, like at SEC Media Day, like whenever Nick Saban is moving from room to room, packs of people, every local reporter, every press or print guy with a cell phone or lady with a cell phone is shoulder to shoulder, walking backwards, just filming Nick Saban walking from room to room. We're all on top of each other, blindly walking backwards, and it's like pandemonium. But for me, like the craziest thing was Malcolm Butler, who made the game sealing interception in, I don't know, Super Bowl 48 or whatever, one where the Patriots beat the Seahawks. Well, Tom Brady was a Super Bowl MVP, so he got a free car, but he gifted it to Malcolm Butler. Malcolm Butler, undrafted guy, was actually from Mississippi outside of Jackson. So that was like our area when I was in TV. So he comes to pick his truck up in Vicksburg, Mississippi. And it's a whole big thing. The Chevrolet dealership's like, hey, he's going to be here this day, this time to pick up the truck. So we're all there, print, TV, and sure enough, he's like, I don't want to be filmed picking up the truck. I don't want to be on TV, because he had a cold sore. He had a cold sore on his lip. He didn't want to be shown on TV with a cold sore on his lip. So like one by one, everybody keeps leaving, like just falling off. Like, all right, I'm not going to wait. I'm like, I'm getting him. I'm getting him on camera, getting into that freaking truck. Somebody goes out there and like a fan who was there waiting to get his autograph, like accosts him, like, there's kids here waiting for you and you won't see them. You're so ungrateful. Long story short, like they sneak him out a back door all the way around the building to pick up the truck. And I follow him there, and I'm going full TMZ, microphone jam between the door and the car. And I'm like, Malcolm, just what does it feel like to get a new car? And he finally is like, he puts his window down. He's like, I just want to send a shout out to Tom. Love you. Love Pats Nation. I appreciate all the love. It's really nice. That's all I got to say. So I got him on, video, which is a good thing, but I had to chase him down. It was a tough one.
Did he hide the cold sore? Was he talking like this?
I just want to say I've been a proud member of War Chant for many years. Gene can attest to that. And I want to say I've never been more proud than during this time. You guys have gone above and beyond, so I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. Checks in the mail, buddy.
Thank you, Jeremy. That was very nice.
All right, take care, Corey. Careful of the gas stations on the way, okay?
Thanks, bud.
Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, so Gene, I didn't push it too tight on him. I didn't zoom in too close.
There you go.
You could see he had it. And it was just like, and I went on TV and I don't want to say cold sore because they came in and like, listen, he's got a cold sore. He doesn't want anybody to know. I'm like, because of a facial blemish, it was pandemonium.
Aslan missed your call. You missed your calling, dude. You should have been like on 60 Minutes.
I know.
Because like,
I know.
That's what you do for a guy that's like getting like a gift. Imagine what you would have done with Mike Wallace or whatever back in the day.
Yeah.
With a scandal.
Jimbo leaving the Moore Center. Oh, just picked up the phone call and they hung up on us. We're getting a bunch of calls, but they can't come at the same time. So when we have, if you folks are listening to the show and you hear us on the phone with somebody, we wouldn't be able to take your call at that particular time, but do keep trying back. There's a couple people that keep dialing in and trying to get in here. So as soon as you call in, I'll bounce back in there.
Once the economy bounces back, we're going to get a second line.
Yeah.
And it's all
I want to hear Aslan say on line 2.
I know, right? Line 2, we got Bob and Ocala. What's going on, Bob and Ocala? Oh, there we go. All right, there's the phone call. Boom. Let's go to it. Hey, thanks for hanging in there. Welcome on into the warchant.com happy hour on this Friday. Who we got on the line?
Yes, it's Chris in Atlanta, Georgia.
Chris in Atlanta, Georgia, man. Welcome to the show. How are you, man?
Good. How's it going, man?
Good, man. I'll turn it over to the guys. If you got a question, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I had a huge question I wanted to ask, and it's mainly about James Blackman, our current quarterback. I'm not a huge James Blackman fan, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And I'm having a hard time understanding why a lot of people are seeing him as our starter after what happened in the bowl game. I feel like he's just emotionally not there. I just feel like he can't lead a team when every time he makes a mistake, man, he's just going berserk. You know what I mean? So I guess my question is, I wanted to get everybody's answer on this or input. What do you feel? Okay, if he does start, I know it probably won't be for long. As soon as he starts messing up, who do you feel would be the first person to jump in? And do you actually think James Blackman will be our starter to start the season?
Oh boy, that's Chris. That is a great question, and that'll be one of the big themes going into. Hopefully, we have practices soon. We'll be able to actually discuss that. I think you nailed it when you talked about the emotion thing. I think we all say he's got a good enough arm. He's got good size. He moves a little bit. I mean, he's got the experience. I think that's why people do it. Obviously, he's got a ton of experience playing in a game where all the other competitors right now basically have zero experience. But it's that emotional thing. He's with a new coaching staff, with a new quarterback. You hope maybe they can do something to reel that in, because you're right. If he continues to have these emotional episodes, if he starts, he's not going to last very long, because that's his shortcoming. I think it's open. I want to see more out of Jordan Travis, because I love the fact with a subpar offensive line, he's going to give you that extra dimension to be able to run around and pick up first downs and keep plays alive a little longer. We had Tate Rodemaker, which I hate the fact he didn't get a spring practice in, because that could have really helped his case to compete for that starting job. So it really is wide open, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, I think with Blackman, I just think he is what he is. I don't know at this point, even with the new coach, even with the new OC. I mean, I think we've seen enough out of him to know, okay, he's just at best a decent average type quarterback, and he doesn't run much. And I just think that somebody like a Jordan Travis or a Chubba Purdy gives you that extra dimension where if everything breaks down, he can still go get you a first down. He's not going to hopefully just throw it right into a linebacker's belly. And the emotional thing is one thing, and it's a really big thing. I was amazed at what I saw in the Sun Bowl. Not just the turnovers, but just it's like, man, you've turned it over enough in your career. You should be used to it by now. Why is this crushing your spirit so much, man? You got to grow up a little bit and handle failure. Exactly. Especially right now. It's like, man, you didn't just lose the national championship game, man. You're in the Sun Bowl. So that was really discouraging. And then I just think, I don't know what his ceiling is. I do. I think we've probably come close to seeing his ceiling. And I just think that as soon as something goes bad, even if he's a starter, I think they're going to be really quick to make a change just to get something in there and get a better athlete maybe on the field.
Let me pile on real quick, and then Aslan can make the defense for James Blackman. Yeah, Chris, I think I agree with you 100%. To me, it's the number one thing is the emotional side, because even in that bowl game, and that wasn't the first time we've seen that. In the Florida game, he melted down also emotionally, and he's done it other times. The biggest problem to me is it's not that the turnovers were all his fault. Like the interception to the tight end, a man who Trey McKitty. That wasn't on him. Trey McKitty ran the wrong route, or ran the route incorrectly. But you see James go over to the sideline just losing his mind. That's not good for your teammates. The quarterback has to be the guy that kind of calms everybody else down and everybody looks to for leadership, and he hasn't provided it. And the biggest problem is this spring might have been a chance for him to show some of that and like show some growth in that area, and then it didn't happen. I just don't see how you go into games this season with him as the starter, unless just there's nobody else that can do it. I think if any of those other guys have the intangibles, I would look to maybe one of the freshmen. Aslan, you're up. Make the defense.
Yeah, I agree.
Chris,
all right, we're all in agreement.
Okay.
I mean, my only thing, and I guess I'm being contrarian here just to give us a little bit of, leeway. I think maybe a lot of the pressure he put on himself in the Sun Bowl was simply the fact that he knew Mike Norvell was there. I mean, that was like his audition. I mean, so I think the fact that he was so crushed wasn't because they were going to lose the Tony the Tiger Frosted Flake Sun Bowl. It was, hey, man, this is my job audition for the next 2 years of my life, and I just totally goofed it up. Again, this whole Jordan Travis thing to me is interesting because, okay, we're all in agreement that James Blackman is a subpar quarterback in terms of what we expect of Florida State. Well, I mean, these guys didn't want to win games. I mean, Willie Taggart didn't feel heat with his job on the line, pretty much every week after the Louisiana Monroe game. And we never saw Jordan Travis. Why? Because everybody likes James Blackman. He didn't want to lose the team. He didn't want to lose the locker room by going to Jordan Travis. Sometimes I get it. We think we know more than coach and we probably don't, but then sometimes we give too much credit to coaches. Why not try Jordan Travis? I still want to see more from him to know why they should have gone to him, or maybe we'll figure out why they didn't go to him. I'm still on the Chubba Purdy train. I like what I saw in Chubba's tape. He looks most closely aligned to the quarterbacks that Mike Norvell's had in the past. And I think he'd be the first one off the bench. Hot take. There you go. I'm done. That's all I got for you, Chris. Thanks for calling.
All right. Before I jump off, I just wanted to say, because I was on another platform not too long ago, Mark Rogers. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that guy. And they had another guy on there, and basically he kind of laughed at me when I mentioned Chubba Purdy starting. Kind of saying that obviously he's no experience. I can't believe you would even say that. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, so you think James Blackman is a much better option than Chubba? Because personally, I think Chubba Purdy has the mobility to get out of the way. Our offensive line is what it is. It's not going to get that much better. So at the end of the day, what I'm looking at is we got to have some kind of mobility in the backfield. So I don't know. That was my take on it. I just wanted to check with you. I'm glad most of you guys agree with me.
Yeah, and that's cool. Freshmen, it's not crazy for freshmen to start anymore. So
it's happening a lot more these days. I'm with you. I just wish Chubba would have been here in the spring a little bit. That's the only thing and maybe this is an area we mentioned where James Blackman starts a few games and things go as most of us seem to expect, that he'll unravel at some point. And then maybe, at that point, Chubba's been on campus long enough, or Jordan Travis has enough. Somebody at that point, maybe they'll be more comfortable making the change. So that seems like a pretty reasonable scenario.
All right, Chris, thanks for the call, man. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, Aswan. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks, Chris. I should have asked him where he lived in Atlanta. Since I'm driving.
Yeah, you can stop by on your way in, Cory.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, it's your lucky day.
Nothing like some deep-throated defense of James Blackman on a Friday to get my weekend off on the right note.
Nice. Your holiday weekend. So, Ira, don't you think
we got another phone call, Cory? Relax.
Sorry.
Darn it.
I know, we're almost like, we need to let you guys riff a little bit, but let's take the phone call. Welcome on into the warchant.com happy hour. You got Gene, Cory, and Ira on the line listening to you, and the entire nation. Who is this?
Hey, Aswan, this is the guy that's guilty of blowing up your phone. My live stream is a little held back, so I'm not really sure when to call, but this is Ty from Green Cove Springs, Florida.
Ooh.
Just south of Jacksonville.
Okay, there we go. All right, Ty, welcome on into the show, man. Thanks for calling. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How you guys doing?
Doing well, man.
Great.
Doing good.
What's on your mind?
There you go. Well, I had a quick story and then a question for you guys. I graduated from FSU 2018, spring of 2018, so golden years of football.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. So I was in the sports department for V89.7, the radio station at FSU. I had no business being in there. I just wanted to do something extracurricular. And they gave me a media pass for the now famous Delaware State game, the highest scoring FSU game, I think ever, if I remember correctly. So I was up in the press box, and my claim to fame is that I'm the last media member to ask Jimbo Fisher a post-game press conference question when I had absolutely no business doing that. I wasn't even supposed to say anything. I was just live tweeting. But anyways, I was just wondering if you guys, we've talked about how Jimbo Fisher used to flirt with other teams a lot. And you guys gave your little spiel on when you knew that Willie Taggart wasn't the guy. Was there a time you guys knew that Jimbo Fisher was going to bolt? Was there anything before the official news that he was going to leave for Texas A&M?
Yeah. Gene, you might want to jump on this one first.
Yeah, we were actually the first ones, and Jimbo got very, as you may remember, one of the last press conferences, that Florida game, where he got very saucy with a lot of us, especially me, because we were actually the first ones to put out. I'd heard enough from people both around him and in Texas that back in October that he was probably going. The writing was on the wall. It was pretty much done.
That's early.
And we put something up on the website. I think it was a war room or something like that. And ever since then, you may have remembered some of the press conferences where he kind of would throw my name out a couple times. I think he knew he was not happy about it. But the way he answered from that point forward, I guess through November, really a lot of those times, whether we were dealing after a practice or a post-game press conference, when that subject would come up, he was so defensive about it. And it really kind of rubbed you the wrong way, where you knew something's going on here. I mean, it's one thing, it was different when he was flirting with LSU the 2 years before that. Right. You always kind of feeling the back. Well, I still think he's going to come back. I'm not hearing the definitive things from sources. He still seems pretty more or less bought into Florida State from Thrasher and the administration. They still were pretty much bought into Jimbo Fisher being the guy. There was definitely a different tenor in that fall, middle of that fall, of that year. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
felt the same thing or not being around him then.
Well, the one thing I was going to say is the challenge with that was we kept hearing from, as Gene said, from people in Texas, at Texas A&M, that he was going, that it's basically a done deal. If they're going to come up with the money, he's going to go. The problem was, and you could tell it from the way he acted, that he wasn't the same. And we kept hearing it from people around the program that he's different. He's not. One of the things we heard was that he wasn't, one of the things the players and assistant coaches noticed was that he wasn't jumping on players for attention to detail like normal. He was kind of letting things slide that he never would let slide in the past. And so that was kind of like another sign. But the problem was he was telling his inner circle, all the people that he was really close with at Florida State and in Tallahassee, he was assuring all of them it was a lie, that he's not going anywhere. He's staying. So much so that even, I don't know if you remember, and this is kind of messy, but his kids at school were like telling all of their friends, no, it's BS. He's staying. So that was the biggest challenge to covering it was the people closest to him. I had people very close to him like a day or two before he left saying, no, man, he's not going. He loves it here. He's not going, because that's what he was telling them. Meanwhile, the whole time he was planning to go. He kept his circle so tight in that whole, I think it was basically him and his agent and his girlfriend were probably the only ones that really knew. And maybe Candy, his ex-wife, nobody else really knew. And he kind of ghosted all his friends when he left. So it was a weird situation where you had everything was pointing to him leaving, but everybody close to him was insisting it wasn't going to happen. And they believed what they were saying.
One of the things that I heard around the beat, my short stint around those people, was that it had something to do, I'm forgetting his son's name, that has Fanconi anemia, that there was a treatment facility in Texas that he wanted to be closer to. Did you guys ever hear anything about that?
People said that. I don't know. I mean, I think the other thing that what they said was that Texas A&M was going to give him use of his private plane, of a private plane, to get the kids back and forth to Tallahassee, to get his ex-wife back and forth, and also to get Ethan to any treatments he wanted. I do think that Texas A&M basically made it clear they were going to give anything he wanted, and that's kind of, to be honest, I think part of the negotiation was Jimbo threw out just crazy terms, and LSU balked. I mean, LSU didn't do it. LSU backed down because Jimbo wanted a lot. Texas A&M basically just kept giving him anything he wanted. So, I mean, I think that was part of it. But if he wanted to stay, he made plenty of money. He could have got Ethan to any hospital he wanted to.
Right.
Do you guys remember that?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say there was we used to have these press conferences with Jimbo back, I don't know, 12. Well, from the time he was head coach until probably 2014 in that museum room, where afterwards we BS with him for about 10 minutes or 15 minutes, however much time he had. And there was one time in particular, and I can't remember the year. I feel like it was probably 2000. I know DC was still working at War Chant. I do remember that specifically, Gene. So whatever those years were. And I remember Jimbo saying, look, this day and age, you can't really stay at a place longer than 8 or 10 years. It doesn't work out. The fans lose interest. You get mad at the fans. They get mad at you. The boosters start saying no to things. And he's like, after about 8 or 10 years, that's about the limit. The money involved and everything else. And so he kind of played it out exactly right. He was at Florida. I know he's the head coach for 8 of the years, but he was at Florida State for 11 years. 8 years as a head coach, and then he pieced out. I don't know if that guy is ever going to be. He was really kind of just angry and ornery at the end, but he was always kind of that guy. And I wonder if he's. I know this sounds goofy and rainbowy, but do you think he's found any peace, Ira, in College Station? Do you think he's in a better place and in a better mood now that he's got all of his toys?
I would say no. I think it's just different degrees of what he's willing to put up with and what they're willing to put up with. And if they win a national title, I mean, if you remember the end of 2012, FSU was fed up with him. I mean, President Barron, they were very frustrated with Jimbo at that point. Then he wins a national title. That resets the clock. So if he goes out and wins 11 or 12 games this year, then everything will be fine. If they struggle this year for some reason, and they shouldn't, I think they'll have a good year. But if they win 7 or 8 games, now they start pushing back on things and he gets frustrated. It's always going to be volatile. It's always going to be volatile with him, I think.
He does have cattle there, so I mean that's got to make him happy, right? He loves buying the steers.
True.
Right, that's big time.
Well, hey, Aslan, I just wanted to say I knew Ryan, your predecessor, from V89, met him and Ari and a couple other guys. I started listening to War Chant when Ryan was the host. I think we got an improvement here with Aslan. So keep up the good work, guys, and I really appreciate you.
I appreciate
Thanks,
that,
man.
Ty. Thanks, man. Thanks for
And
listening.
we
Have a
still
great
love
day.
Ryan. He's with WCTV.
You too.
Does a
Thank
great job for them.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Ryan's a good dude. You like Ryan.
There you go, Aslan. You got a fan.
Look at that. Look at that. They exist in the wild. They exist.
What were we going to ask for, Corey? Do you remember?
Oh, no, about Blackman. Like, you said that you want the quarterback to be calm and not be so emotional. But wouldn't it be better if he just, like, McKinney running the wrong route or not running it correctly? Instead of Blackman, it's okay to be emotional if you're screaming at McKinney because he ran the wrong route. That, you know what I mean? Like, you can channel that emotion in a better way, in my opinion. Imagine Dan Marino, after throwing an interception because Mark Duper ran the wrong route, going just on the bench and putting his head in his hands and going, I can't believe I just threw another interception, man. That's not how it works. Marino, Aaron Rodgers, I'm sure Lamar Jackson now, they're going to be screaming at dudes. Man, get your head out of your butt and start playing.
We saw Winky do that a few times here at Florida State.
Aslan might be right about, the feeling that this was his chance to audition either for Mike Norvell or other colleges if he was looking to transfer. But yeah, it had that feel like, here's my one big chance. And it was all just kind of slipping away.
That wasn't a ringing endorsement that he deserves to play in more pressure-packed games.
Not really.
If that's how he handled it the first time.
Last drive, he moved him down the field in the last drive. That last turnover wasn't him.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. The first 5 were, but not that last one.
So, like, how many games, and I don't want to pile on James, because I like James. Like, how many games would we say that he's melted down? I mean, like Clemson last year. I don't remember the Florida game, but I'll take one of your guys. I think, Ira, you said Florida. He looked kind of dejected. Obviously, the Sun Bowl.
I just thought in the Florida game, I had to go back and watch specifically, but I remember after that game thinking, man, this kid just does not handle he doesn't handle adversity the way he's so wound so tight. And everybody says it like it's a positive that he wants it so bad. Remember Jimbo used to say that about different guys. They're not trying to make mistakes, guys. They just want it too bad. Well, that doesn't help me. Like, you wanting it too bad, that's not a positive. Like, if you're a good athlete, if you're a good player.
Different guys. They're not trying to make mistakes, guys. They just want
Sorry, I took a phone call. I was going to see if I could just kind of lay it in the background, but they had us playing in the background. Gotcha. I'm sorry, Ira.
No problem.
I'll let you finish your thought, but we'll take our phone call first.
Are they still there?
On the line?
Hey, this is Jay. I'll hold the line and let Ira finish.
Oh, no, Jay, you're fine. You're more important than Ira.
Come on in, Jay.
Yeah, sit down. Have a chair. Have a seat. What's on your mind, man?
Hey, I got a couple of questions, if that's possible.
All right, we'll give you 2. I'm feeling
Where's Jay
generous.
from?
Okay.
Jay, you're from
first
Orlando,
of all,
you said?
Yeah, Jay from Daytona Beach. How
Daytona
you doing,
Beach.
guys?
Okay, there we go. What high school? What high school do you go to? Mainland? Seabreeze?
Actually, I'm originally from Orlando. I went to Oak Ridge, but I moved to Daytona Beach.
All right, fair enough.
Gotcha.
Oak Ridge, home of Noonie Murray.
Oh,
there you go.
Nice. Prince.
Yeah.
Sweet Prince.
First, I just want to kind of echo the other caller's sentiment about Ryan. We love that wake up show with Ryan, and when Gene hired Aslan, I'm like, what is Gene doing with this Aslan guy? But Aslan, I must say, you took the whole show concept to another level especially with like, the streaming stuff, the online format, like, an upgrade with Aslan.
I appreciate that. Thanks, man.
There you go. That's your new nickname, Aslan. Upgrade. You're the upgrade.
You're doing a great job, man.
Thank you, man. Sorry, I'm like jumping through here. I'm sorry. I appreciate it, Jay. Thank you. I'm terrible at accepting compliments, but I do appreciate it, man. You got a question for Jane, Ira, or Corey?
Yeah, this question is actually for the whole panel. The first question, I guess, is kind of about transfers, but legacy at the same time, because it seems like on transfers, I guess, we always seem to have a little bit of bad luck in this respect that, like, I guess with the defensive end from Temple, Miami got him, and a couple other transfers. We always end up getting the short end of the stick and end up settling for, I guess, not our first option. But with the legacy, someone asked about Dion Sanders' son the other day, and I forget his name.
Shedeur.
And Shedeur Sanders. And I just wanted to know, with the legacies, do we kind of have bad luck in that area as well? Because I mean, it's not talked about a lot, but we got Charlie Ward's son on the roster, and I mean, I don't know if he's on like the practice team or whatever, but like he never gets mentioned. And like what's the deal with our legacies? Do we have bad luck in that area? Or what are you guys' opinion on that?
Well, I'll take it real quick. I mean, I know Michael Morris, his father was an offensive lineman back in the dynasty era. I think the previous staff really didn't want him, so he ended up going to Tennessee or Michigan. I mean, Devin Bush is the only guy I can think off the top of my head, Devin Bush Jr., that was a really highly ranked legacy that Florida State didn't get, and that's because his dad got a support job at Michigan, kind of the way that Florida State landed Mario Edwards Jr. But Gene, Ira, I guess Cory, you're not as much of the recruiting guys you used to be in the previous lifetime, Cory. But Gene, Ira, I mean, what do you think about Florida State in terms of what they've gotten out of legacies, I guess, the last few years, and maybe looking ahead to a guy like Shedeur?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, like you said, it's a different thing when it's a highly ranked guy. Some of the guys we're talking about, I know that you can talk about Weldon's kid and some other ones. Florida State was kind of lukewarm on him, so I don't really see that as being a problem. I mean, look, a guy that was really good was Bradley Jennings' kid in this last class. He's a really highly regarded linebacker, and he has committed to Florida State, and it seems pretty solid in his commitment. So it seems like when there's one they really want to get, they have. To your other point on the transfers, I think it's just like with recruiting right now. Mike Norvell needs to build some momentum up, whether it's recruiting or whether it's transferring right now out of the portal is like recruiting. And he's had his one arm tied behind his back right now with the pandemic, not having the opportunity to have kids on campus, not being able to go out and see these kids right now. So I think that's hurting them in the transfer. They've gotten a few pretty decent ones, but I'm like with you and a lot of other, I think fans would like to see some bigger names, especially some big offensive linemen coming in to really help this group right off the bat.
Well, Gene, can I ask you this? Sorry to interrupt, but can I ask you this?
Sure.
Okay, for example, like I mentioned, the defensive end from Temple and the offensive tackle from UCLA. I mean, we really needed those two positions. Yeah. And I mean, our luck, we get the tight end, but we don't get the offensive tackle. And then we get a defensive end from Baylor who's like been injured. And, so it seems like we really don't have we know of the kids, but we just can't finish with the guys that we really want and more importantly need.
Yeah, no, I see it, but like I said, I think that's a function of recruiting right now. I think Mike Norvell needs to make his stamp and needs to start getting more involved, improving this team a little bit before we start seeing more 5-stars coming in, getting your first choices in targets. Now, I do think, the running back they got in, I think they really wanted. The defensive back they got was one of the highest rated defensive back transfers they got in. So they're not striking out everybody. I see what you're saying 100%, man. If they could get a transfer from a big-time end and a couple offensive linemen, that would solve a lot of the immediate issues with this team right now. So, yeah, it is an issue, but I think it'll get better as Mike Norvell makes a stamp on the program.
Let me ask you a question, Jay. If you were a big-time offensive tackle and you have 1 year left of college, are you looking at Florida State thinking, man, that's where I got to go? I got to go be on that line. I mean, I think Florida State's not, it's just not seen as a hot school right now in terms of
that hurts.
Offense. Well, I mean, it's the truth, right? I mean,
that hurts.
But I would say this, to echo what Gene said, I do think that they've done better on transfers than you think. I mean, they got the linebacker from Purdue. I mean, they've gotten a lot of guys to fill spots they need. They just haven't gotten the marquee guys, and they certainly haven't gotten a ton at offensive tackle other than the guy from FIU, Devontae Taylor. The one thing I'd say about legacy guys is, they've missed out on some for reasons that are understandable. When Brad Johnson's son, Max Johnson, was coming out, Jimbo recruited him when he was real young. Willie tried to recruit him for a while. Then Florida's, the offense kind of went to hell the last year or two, and it's understandable that Max Johnson probably wanted to go in a different direction. Casey Weldon's son, I think, was a case where Florida State passed. I think as Gene was saying, I don't think Florida State if Florida State wanted him, I think they could have gotten him. There's a couple others that are coming up though. Cory Collier, big time recruit out of South Florida. His dad played at FSU. Michael's been saying all along he doesn't think Florida State's probably the favorite right now, even though he's a legacy. So that's one that they're having a hard time with. Shedeur Sanders is weird. Like, did you watch that video he did with Dion? Dion did with him like a couple months ago, where they were like sitting on their couch or whatever. It was like this long video where Dion was like interviewing his son, and the whole point of it was to let people know that he's not necessarily going to Florida State. Like anybody that's interested, come at him because he's not necessarily going to Florida State. And you wonder, part of that is, Dion seemed to want to get involved with the program more when Odell, Dion interviewed for the job. He wanted Odell maybe to get the head coaching job. If he didn't get it, there was talk of him coming back in some capacity. And when that didn't happen, you wonder if that kind of damaged the chances of Shedeur Sanders. So I don't know. We'll have to see.
Are we sure that Norvell wants Shedeur?
No, we're not. That's always the tricky thing, though, with legacies, is you got to play that balance between you don't want to insult the father, but it may not be a right fit. And so
remember when Jimbo swore that DeKalen Brooks' last name could have been DeKalen Smith, and he still would have been recruited by Florida State. I don't know that I will ever buy that because if you're Derek Brooks and your son is good enough to be recruited by a lot of schools, but your alma mater didn't recruit him, the one you won a national championship for, that's a tough deal. And Jimbo's he's got to keep those bridges open, man. He's got to use Derek Brooks in recruiting. So yeah, we'll offer your son. That's a fine line to walk with you at a place like Florida State, where maybe the kid isn't quite what you're looking for, but the tie goes to the dad that's in the Hall of Fame. Maybe something like that.
Well, let me ask you this. Speaking of Hall of Fame, like, what's the deal with Caleb Ward?
Yeah. You asked about him
before. Is he a practice team guy or what?
Yeah, I mean, he was a walk-on. I don't think I think it wasn't like he was a standout in high school. I've seen, there's been a few times at practice where I've seen him make plays and thought, hey, Caleb can play. And he's not just here because he's Charlie's son. But under the former staff anyway, it never looked like he was ever close to getting on the field. We'll see. This is a different system. And a lot of this system from, what we're hearing is so much of it is about intelligence and running routes correctly and anticipating the quarterback and that communication. You never know. A system can change things. And he looks like he belongs. I mean, when I watched him practice and play in practice, he looks like he's a college football player. But he's a walk-on. It's not like he was on scholarship and just not being used.
All right, Jay. Appreciate the phone call, man.
One more question, Aslan. Remember?
Chill, Aslan.
Well, we got like 9 minutes left. I was going to let you.
Well, my last question is actually for you.
All right.
Okay, this question is for Aslan. Aslan, we love you to death, man. And we don't want you to leave us like Jimbo, man. It's almost like I see you kind of like Jimbo, like you came out the bout and it's like, we don't want to lose Ryan, and then we get this guy, and then we fall in love with you, and then you leave us. But my question for you is, do you consider yourself a James Blackman apologist?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I do. I feel bad for the kid, man. I feel bad for the kid, man. I just think about how good, good is obviously a relative term here, but how, looked like he was on the right path at the end of 17. I know his stats weren't all that good against the Gators, but he went into the swamp. He beat Florida. You beat Florida in the swamp, you get a lifetime pass from me. It's the deal. It's the contract.
Did you watch the Arizona State game?
I don't care about the Sun Bowl. He beat the Gators in Gainesville. Come on, Jay.
That was a lifetime ago.
Great point, but
Come on. I hear you. I'll tone it down. I'm on the Chubba wagon. I'm driving the Chubba wagon. Hop on. All right, man.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Great call. Great
job.
Thanks for taking my call, man.
Yeah, man.
Speaking of legacies,
I'm shutting the phones down.
I mean, this is going to sound like a joke. I guess it is, but not really. I mean, Cromartie's got a fleet coming. That's not a joke.
You had to go there, Cory.
Didn't he? Weren't there multiple Cromarties that played at Florida?
There's a Cromartie or two that played at Florida. Yeah.
So I feel like the bloodlines are going to be, you're going to have a few to choose from. I'm telling you. And that kid you could make a case that Antonio Cromartie is the most athletic player that's ever played at Florida State. The most freakish athlete that's ever been at Florida State.
I'll tell you what, he tweets videos of one of his sons, and I think it's the one, might be Antonio the third or junior or whatever. He, man, he's impressive. It's like clips of him as like a 12-year-old. It's, dude, Brady doesn't want none of him. I'll tell you that.
No, that's a different. Brady's at a decided disadvantage athletically there.
Well, hopefully, one of his sons comes. He'll start more than one game. We'll get to actually see him play at Florida State. It's like, I know Cory always talks about the Randy Moss. I mean, even though Cromartie was technically on the roster, you barely even had a cup of tea with him.
Yeah, but he made some plays at least. You got to see the athletic.
A little bit of time he did, but man, to think what if he could have started at least one whole season, what he could have done.
That junior year, he would have played both sides of the ball. That would have been a lot of fun, but it didn't work out.
So is the voting still open on WarChant.com's Tribal Council for the ultimate Florida State player, the Seminole Madness, or is voting closed?
I think it ends in the morning.
Okay.
Charlie versus Dion. Let me go check have you checked with the latest?
I haven't. My whole thing was I just wanted to make sure that Charlie beat Peter Boulware by a bigger margin than he beat Jameis, because it was absurd, the margin of victory. And then I saw what he did to Peter Boulware, and I'm like, okay. That
was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Poor Peter Boulware. It's like Charlie's like gotten stronger round by round.
Yeah.
Well, that's not fair. It's like putting Cory up against Usain Bolt in a race. I mean, you can't. There's just no way.
Hey,
Sorry,
man, why are we taking shots at me all over the place? They taking shots at my kid.
The issue you've got, Cory, is now I've seen you pull your hamstring twice in my life now. I've seen you.
What was the other time?
Racing Natalie.
Natalie. Yeah. Oh, I shattered it then, and it falling on my face.
Can we share that story real quick?
No, we don't need to share that. It's been shared enough. We
need somebody. Please call in and ask Cory about the story. That way he'll have to answer.
No. We don't need that. Good times.
I shut the phone line down just because I didn't want us to go too far over an hour.
All right.
Gotcha. Did you see the voting? Do you see the margin?
Yeah. Charlie's got a sizable lead. If you're a War Chant subscriber and you're desperately opposed to Charlie Ward beating Dion Sanders in the finals, you need to get on. You need to get on the next 12 hours or so and make your vote for Dion, because it looks like Charlie's running away with this one, which is kind of interesting. I mean, I don't think anybody would argue that Dion. I can't imagine anybody would argue that Dion's a better athlete. Dion's a better athlete than Charlie Ward, but it's interesting how people's love for Charlie Ward and kind of the kind of person he is seems like it's kind of carried the day. And again, I think that kind of grew during the course of the tournament, where you saw people voting that way, whether it's Warrick Dunn or Charlie Ward, more so than just the best player.
Yeah, I think there's that, and I think there's some nostalgia associated with it. Most of us have been around Florida State football for a long time, but you're always going to remember your first time, whether it's whatever. I'm not going to go down that route, but we all remember the first Heisman, the first national championship, all that. I mean, that's the thing we're always going to remember the most fondly. And then you're right off the field, just such a lovable character and such a good guy that he warms everyone's heart. When Charlie Ward's name comes up in a conversation with FSU fan, you just instantly smile.
Cory, what was your? Oh, go ahead.
Is this the closest battle that he's had thus far in his march to the championship?
Oh,
him
for
and
sure.
Dion, like, it's the closest. Like,
yeah,
everybody else blew out, but
it's not super close. But yeah, it's much closer than anything else. Like you said,
and I wonder, even if we'd organized the bracket in another way, is there anybody else that would have if Charlie's doing this to Dion, and I think he beat Warrick Dunn too by a sizable margin. Is there anybody that would have given him a run? And I just can't imagine there would have been. Like, even if it had been organized like Peter Warrick versus Charlie Ward, or Marvin versus Charlie Ward, Sebastian Janikowski versus Charlie Ward, it was never going to make a difference.
And nobody was going to be Dion other than Charlie, right?
I think so. Yeah, I thought Marvin and Dion would be close. If Walter Jones had just played one more year at Florida State, if he had actually played the year he redshirted, maybe he has a chance, because he goes down as, maybe the best offensive tackle of all time, but he only played one season for you. So yeah, Charlie, I didn't think it'd be like this. I really thought it'd be like 52 to 48 percentage. I didn't know it was going to be a landslide. But hey, nobody's got an issue with Charlie Ward being named the best player in Florida State history because he was really, really good.
And I think Gene's right. It definitely the winning the first national title, winning the first Heisman, on top of everything else.
Well, and like he was a two-sport star in a sport that other people watched a lot of. Like Dion, what you would not call Dion a star of the FSU baseball team.
Yeah.
Like he was a player, but he wasn't like he didn't bat leadoff all the time and hit 340. He just became a major league player that was drafted mainly on his speed and then became a really pretty solid Major League Baseball player. But Charlie was the point guard, the most recognizable face in college football, was also the starting point guard in an Elite Eight team. I mean, that's just nuts. We'll never see that again, ever. We haven't seen anything close to that in the last 26 years, 27 years.
There's been a couple guys that have been good in a couple sports, but not I don't think to that level.
And not like quarterback in basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Greg
impossible.
Paulus. Greg Paulus, right?
The great Greg
But
Paulus.
yeah.
Oh.
He came back and
The
quarterback
three Heismans.
Syracuse. Yeah. No, that's Ron Paulus.
Oh,
Aslan's talking about he was the Duke point guard.
okay.
Then transferred to Syracuse to be the quarterback.
Well, I think a lot of it too, I think is he walked off as a champion. Like if Jameis would have had, if he would have had a season in 13, if he would have won the Heisman in 14 in a national championship, I'm sure it'd have been a little bit closer too. But 14 might have been a little bit underwhelming, and then obviously what he's done in the NFL kind of submarined his hopes.
I wonder if Winky would have played in the Fiesta Bowl.
Well, think that Winky plays in the Fiesta Bowl, and then let's say Snoop Minnis plays in that. I mean, he's so close to winning 3 national championships in a row for Florida State that he probably landslides everybody through the whole thing.
Yeah. Maybe not Charlie, but everybody else for sure, I think. Yeah.
I don't know, 3 national championships to 1. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing that hurts Jameis, obviously, and just the off the field stuff, and Florida State fans defended him, but you saw a lot of people in the voting in their comments on the message boards, especially when he went up against Charlie, saying, "Look, I just that's going to be a factor," and then other people would say, "Well, he didn't do anything wrong, whatever. He was never convicted of any crimes," but still, I think a lot of people felt like he didn't represent Florida State in the way that certainly Charlie did.
All right, it's 6 p.m. We've done an hour. Just one thing as we head out. I think Louisville, last time I saw Louisville's the first only ACC school that announced their return. They were going
like May 27th or something.
Are they? I thought they were June 8th in it with everybody. In the
I
SEC,
think I saw some. Well, maybe they're coming back. Maybe they're coming back to campus May 27th and then starting to work out June 8th.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So. Does June 8th probably line up to what we're thinking Florida State will do in terms of resuming activities? Or do you think we'll know within the next 4 days, 5 days, or?
Yeah, from what I understand, they're not going to be doing anything next week for sure. So it could be the week after. And my dog is over here growling at some dogs in the neighborhood, so you may hear him bark in a second. Yep, there it goes.
There we got it.
Thank you.
I can feel it. I can feel it coming.
Man.
And I can't stop him. So if you're thinking about robbing my house, Cory, you got to deal with Nico.
Just let him go outside and see what's what.
Chase squirrels.
Figure some stuff out.
It might not go well. But anyway, I wouldn't be surprised if that next week, definitely not next week, maybe that first week in June. If not, then that second week in June.
Hey, Aslan, when this is over, can you just leave the live stream going on me driving?
I could. Theoretically,
Would it be another 30 minutes until I pull into my driveway and I wave bye to everyone?
But yeah, so do we think Florida State will make an announcement, or is there no need to make an announcement? Tuesday or Wednesday, or just how that's going to work?
As far as I don't know if it's been finalized yet. I mean, I think they're still waiting on word from the state. I still think the state of Florida will be, as Gene mentioned earlier, I think they'll be kind of unified. So I think you'll hear Florida State and Florida probably starting at the same time. Right. And you got to give credit. Florida State was smart. They kind of got the word out to the players to get here early and get situated for when it happens. They're ready to go. I mean, if they get the word, within the next week or two that they're ready to, so they're cleared to work out in the facility, they're all here. They're ready to go, and it'll happen.
Right on. There you go. I'm just pulling up on ESPN.com. It says that Louisville first in ACC to allow workouts starting June 8th.
Okay.
So we'll see how it goes for everybody else in the Atlantic Coast Conference. All right, gentlemen. Gene, thanks for being here, buddy.
Thank you.
Cory in the car. Look at you. You should be a post
Hands on
office
the wheel
person, man.
Sorry.
Neither rain nor snow nor sleet nor poorly scheduled day would keep you from being on the happy hour. And then
most certainly the latter.
Keeping everything rolling for us, man. Appreciate it. All right, folks, do
guys.
stay connected with warchant.com. Check out the War Room report that Gene and I worked on over on the Tribal Council. That is chock full of really pertinent, relevant, current information when it comes to Florida State and trying to get the football season back on track and started. For all the gentlemen on the show, thanks for watching. Have a great weekend, everybody.
All right.